welcome to Issues of the Day, where we discuss key issues in the news. I am Nana Daneji. Joining me in the studio today are Mr. Rasheed Oniyangi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nana.
And Mr. Saheed Ayegboka. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
On the headlines, Nigeria marks 1 year since the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu orders NIN to register every eligible Nigerian before the end of 2026. Nigeria has marked the first anniversary of the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, unveiled a book of tributes and condolence message in honor of a late leader. Family members, former aides, and political associates attended the memorial, reflecting on Buhari's years in office and his contribution to national development. May his soul rest in peace. I would start with that. But I don't know. A lot of youths have been saying he has been the cause of all the issues that we're having now with our president. Why do Nigerians often appreciate their leaders more after they leave office or pass away more than while they were in power? Mr. Oniyangi, I think this one has to go to you.
Well, as leaders, you bear the burden of everything. You carry the success and failures of the country that you lead. And of course, if you have to put Buhari's tenure on a way, there's no way you will escape that mixed feeling that did we do great, did we not do great? But you also have to understand what applied when it came in and the complexity of the Nigerian society. Of course, I'm saying this, because we're all trying to be nice to someone who is late now. If he was alive, most people like me won't be so kind. We'll be far more candid about his failures and his successes. He did succeed in a lot of things. But when success tends to disappear under the pile of failures, you tend to judge leaders by the things they couldn't do rather than the things they didn't do. Yes, his tenure was controversial, to say the least. And most of the problems we are having today had their genesis in the tenure of President Buhari. People would like to say he did infrastructure as he promised he would do, but at the end of the day, we discovered that most of this infrastructure, there wasn't just enough money to finish them. He started the Kaduna-Kano, which is partly finished, the Kano-Maradi rail line. These are major infrastructure developments, in terms of the perennial scarcity of petroleum. He did quite well there because for most of his tenure, we weren't subjected to this excruciating fuel scarcity. Yes, there was some. And then towards the end, there was this currency change that really, really put people in a very, very, in this condition.
But then shouldn't he be judged by both his failures and his successes, not just the successes?
But how much impact does his successes have or not? If the successes had been much, we wouldn't have had the problem we have today. We are spending all our money on subsidies. We are borrowing to even pay the subsidies. And the kind of monumental corruption that was unearthed after he left office is still something we haven't seen the end of. So he did do something, but the fundamental thing that he needed to do to give the country a very solid foundation going forward wasn't done very well. As a person, I would say Buhari is probably one of the best leaders we have as a person. His integrity is unquestionable. He's impeccable.
but
But
as a leader.
But that integrity didn't percolate into the structures of governance when he was president. And that is the major problem we will continue to have with leadership in Nigeria, where leaders will come across as very nice, very nice people with integrity, honesty, and all. But until those attributes, those personal attributes, can filter into the structures of governance, we will continue to have great leaders, but not good governors.
Okay, let me start by saying Mr. Saheed still recognizes himself as a young person, or should I say part of the Gen Z family. So do you think the Gen Z is too critical of the past leaders? Or are the young Nigerians and Gen Z simply refusing to romanticize previous administrations the same way the adults are?
Well, I think we all have rights, and there's a purpose we also. The Gen Zs, if they hold more accountable than the elderly, I think it's fair. Because we also need to put these people on their toes and make them too comfortable. When they are comfortable, there's laxity. Laxity comes in. And to understand the system of government, there were three postulations that were propounded on why government itself existed in the first place. There was one of the postulations that was done by Thomas Hobbes, where he described the state of nature as brutish, nasty, and short. There was another state of nature that was also propounded by John Locke, where he described the state of nature as being peaceful, but the peace is precarious. And there's also another state of nature that was also propounded by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. But the one I want to cite an example with is the one of Thomas Hobbes. So the state of nature is assumed to be a time where there was nothing like government, where the people just live like animals, before they now came together and said, what we should do now is to aggregate all these rights we all have, invest it in one person to superintend over our affairs, so that that person takes care of our well-being, our children's well-being, takes care of our resources, administer what we collectively own. Because there's nothing owned by Tinubu or Buhari or Goodluck or Yaradua. There's a collective ownership that we all have that we now put in trust with these people that, okay, come and administer it on us so that we stop living like animals, you know? So that is basically the postulation of the state of nature. So when human beings in Nigeria now we've aggregated our powers, our rights in the hands of a single person, who is now the president at the federal level, then governor at the state level, then local government chairman, in that manner, we have right to hold them accountable because it's our right that we've given to them. That's what makes them powerful. Instead of they just being themselves now, they have the right of 242 million people across the country. So somebody like Baba Buhari, there is an hadith of the prophet where the prophet said, do not insult or speak ill of people that have known. So religious wise, I will not go too further with that. However, in terms of some certain traits, I think Nigeria has not produced the kind of Buhari, or even if we produce the kind of Buhari, we've produced them in very infinitesimal quantity, and that is in terms of integrity. The integrity Buhari upholds is abnormal. I don't even think even the religion holds us to that kind of standard, the kind of integrity he upholds. And during his tenure, we had the petroleum industry being done, the Petroleum Industry Act, which helped us to structure our national oil company to something that operates now as a limited liability company. We had the second Niger bridge, and we had quite a lot of things. And his tenure also was also marked by some things that were beyond his power. As Buhari came to government by Goodluck Jonathan's regime, our oil production was about 2.3, 2.4 million barrels per day. When Buhari came, the problem in the Niger Delta, that fell to almost 900, 800,000 barrels per day. And at the same time also, the price of oil per barrel globally moved from about $150, $140, $130 per barrel to as low as even $30 per barrel. So Nigeria went into what do you call it, a recession in 2016. When I know that time I was in Lagos, even 4 pieces of tomato then was being sold for 1,500 naira thereabout. So, and also during this time, also we also had the COVID-19, where there was a halt of business transaction largely across the globe for about 10 months or well, almost a year. And Baba also was also tested by himself for a chunk of those period. And at the same time also, he was also tested by the people he trusted. So now all the books that have been written about Buhari since Buhari died, not especially the one that the family commissioned somebody, a ghostwriter, to write in the person of Dr. Charles Omole. When you go through that book, you will see that even at some point in that administration, the president himself, it was said in that book that even Buhari, the former chief of army staff, Buhari didn't want to contest for second term because he saw so many issues, he could not resolve them. But he was told by the chief of army staff, we can no longer secure your survivor if you don't contest. So at some point in that book, Buhari was even painted as a prisoner within his own government. And there were even instances where he signed a document, a memo, wrote, approved on it. And it went to his secretary, Tunde, and Tunde added not approved. So there were a lot of issues here and there. And that person got back to the president. You said you approved this, is not approved, they gave me. He said, okay, you write it again, bring it for me. Then they came again. Then the president approved and said, don't take it anywhere. Take it out of. So he became, even in that book, it was pictured that at some point, Buhari will be speaking to his children, shouting at them, but communicating with them on paper. Something opposite of, because he knew they were listening to him.
Okay.
And so it was even his office was bugged. The former DSS DG said there was never a time they swept his office to look for bugs, and they don't find listening bugs and all these things within his office. So even Buhari, they don't allow that.
I guess he had his own issues.
Yeah, they love. So
yes.
even before he comes to the country to deal with you people's matter, he
Yeah,
had his own matter he was battling with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's head on to our next story. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed the National Identity Management Commission to register every eligible Nigerian before the end of 2026. The NINC Director General, Engineer Abisoya Boka, said more than 137 million Nigerians have already been enrolled, while registration centers and mobile enrollment teams are being expanded across the country. I guess this registration has taken like a lot out of people, because some people do not have access up till now in Nigeria of computers and all that. So asking to have every eligible Nigerian registered at the end of 2020 might be impossible. But I would ask, should access to government services be denied to these Nigerians without a NIN after the 2026 deadline? Mr. Saheed.
Okay, thank you very much. Number one, you can't be in Nigeria without this. And of course, many people now, people hate governments, they hate administrations. What Tinubu is trying to do with these names, I know somebody that hates Tinubu, probably even if he meets him on the road, he might push the man. But he said this is the best thing he thinks Tinubu has even done in his administration, where you have a united front concerning your data. When we watch movies, either LAPD is adjudged to be the best police in the world, Los Angeles Police Department, either FBI, even CIA. You will see that depending on your levels in each of these policing hierarchy, once you commit an offense, they come, they type your name, they type your social security number, it brings out your profile. So if we don't have that, how do we even track people?
Yes, but then we're talking about a situation whereby most Nigerians do not even still have access to computers.
Yes, that's where I'm going. Most of those, so I'm still going to come there. I just want to speak about the imperativity of the names themselves, so that we understand that whatever problem, any challenge we will face in getting this thing done, we should go and face it and get it done. But to say this will not happen should be an impossibility. And Nigerians don't work except when you threaten them. When Pantami was the minister, He threatened, okay, the people's SIMs were no longer working. People trooped out, and we were able to get close to about 90%. So now, instead of you having a different number for your voter's identity card, for your what they call international passport, it's actually passport, not international passport. So it's a photograph that is a passport photograph. So what would they call Nigerians call international passport? What we call our driver's license? What we call our NIN? All those different, what we call our BVN, all those numbers or identification numbers is to be united in one front. So we have one number with which you can trace it. And when you commit an offense, it's for us to take that number, then flag it. Wherever you use your ATM, it reports to EFCC or whichever body that needs to take you up. Wherever you use your passport, it signals them. Wherever you use your driver's license, it signals them. So you are able to track, even in the J here, they have such a comprehensive thing. And to now speak about people in local areas, you don't need to be digitally savvy to register this thing. They are checked, there are points where you go to. When you go to those points, they register you. It's like INEC registration. You don't need to go online to do it. We that we are digitally savvy, we can do that. But they go to wards, bring whoever, they ask you questions, they register you, they give you your number, they give you your
But should these people be denied
I think
services in Nigeria if it's not done by the end of 2026?
I think what is important is that there should be a timeline. It's not an open-ended stuff. Nigeria will get registered almost every day. People die, people are born, and when you have a child, that child has to be registered. But the parents are already registered. So even if the only thing they issue you is a birth certificate, they know that certificate is attached to somebody who is known, and whose digital biometric information is in a database. But my concern is the fact that it's related to your complaint about access. What I am concerned about is the fact that have we domesticated the identity infrastructure itself? This identity issue has been going on for a long time. And then you have multiple agents collecting identity data, all over the country. MTN, the telecoms, the telcos have their own. Even the banks have everybody wants your fingerprint and your whatever, to register you for something. I think this is more to the point of harmonizing all these disparate identity databases into a unified lot. And it started with the BVN, which was a good thing. But then there were lots of mistakes. They even got my birthday wrong, but this has to be cleaned up. And then we have to have a unified identity database. You recall that when INEC wanted to do voter revalidation, there was an uproar, and that is because some people in the country realized that if you go, because what INEC wanted to do was to match every single voter with their national identity number. And this will, in effect, clean out a whole lot of people who don't have that NIN number. Okay. And even as it is, by their database, a lot of sections of the country will suffer disadvantage as a result of this because they haven't taken this national identification thing seriously. Now, by putting a deadline on it, I'm hoping that people will now know that beyond this deadline, things will get more difficult for people to get their identity registered. In fact, the requirements will become more stringent.
And Mr. Oniyangi, one of the things I've also learned as a student of psychology is people don't do things that are important. They do things that are urgent. If they give till the end of the year, whether it's obtainable or not, the government knows. Even me, I don't think it's obtainable.
Yeah.
But if you create an emergency situation for people, after that 1 month, if their SIMs don't work, for like a week, for 2 weeks, I know people insult me on social media for this. For a week, 2 weeks, if people are incapacitated, if I'm the leader, then I will open in February. Then give them a window of two months again. Then I run. If you don't put those deadlines, Nigerians will just take it for granted and nothing will be done.
And again, it will give us a fair idea of how many of us there really are in this country.
Then, Mr. Onion, even with this one, we don't need a census. So even the Census Commission should be decommissioned. Once we finish this one, that means you've registered the numbers of Nigerians. You should be able to ascertain the ones that died, the ones that are still alive. With that one, we don't need to go and spend billions of naira on this thing.
So basically, we're going to be more unemployed people in Nigeria.
What do you mean by unemployed? By the Census Commission?
Yes, of course.
No,
the fact that you are decommissioning a commission does not mean that they are staff.
You're decommissioning a commission, which means there is no jobs.
No, that's not the way
civil service works as a pool.
Anyways,
the government has taken them, they seconded them to that place. Once that place is no longer in existence, they seconded them to that place.
Okay, and we all hope so. Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. For more details, you can subscribe to Citizen TV on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and TikTok. Thanks to my guest, Mr. Rasheed. Thank you so much for coming, and Mr. Oniyangi for your wonderful input today. This is Citizen TV. I am Nana Daneji. Have a lovely day.